Well, he's a young, low-ranking member of the U.S. Air Force's Reserve Unit, and he's just been charged over the leak of some of America's biggest military secrets. I'm talking about 21-year-old Jack Teixeira, a airman in the Massachusetts National Guard. He's facing 2 charges relating to the retention, transmission, and removal of U.S. defense information. Teixeira did not enter a formal plea. His parents were in court to hear the charges. Teixeira will remain in detention until his next hearing, which will be set for Wednesday. Well, Carroll is covering the story and is in Boston, where the case has been taking place. Good to have you with us, Jason. So this is happening in a federal court. Just take us through the charges that were handed down today.
Right, let's first start with the charges there, Lynda. I mean, you outlined some of it there, but during this initial court appearance, this is where a defendant is read the charges, asked if they understand the charges, and here's what was read in court. Jack Teixeira now faces 2 federal counts, the first one being unauthorized retention and transmission of national defense information. That's the first one. The second one being unauthorized removal and retention of classified documents or material. Now, at that point, the judge overseeing the proceeding asked the defendant if he understood the charges that he's facing. Jack Teixeira simply said yes. There's a portion of the courtroom that's set aside for family members, a bench. And at that point, you could see Teixeira's mother and what we believe to be his grandmother. They were sitting there. They were praying during the court proceeding, also crying during the proceeding. And when it was over, his father, who was sitting there as well, simply shouted out and said, "Love you, Jack." At that point, Teixeira did not turn around, but simply said, "You too, Dad." Now, as his family exited the court, they were surrounded by reporters and cameramen, reporters including myself, and repeatedly asked his parents if they had any sort of comment about what just had happened with their son and what he's accused of. They did not answer any of our questions. Still a lot of questions, though, about why someone with this type of low rank in the Air National Guard had access to classified documents, and still even more questions in the intelligence community about what sort of effect this is eventually going to have. President Biden weighed in on this. I want to read you just part of what he said. "While we are still determining the validity of those documents, I've directed our military and intelligence community to take steps to further secure and limit distribution of sensitive information, and our national security team is closely coordinating with our partners and allies." So that gives you a sense, with the president weighing in on this, just how serious this classified document leak is to the intelligence community.
Yeah.
Back to you.
Certainly raises a lot of questions. Carroll for us outside the court there in Boston. Thanks very much. And we are staying on this story. The Pentagon is limiting who receives top secret intelligence briefings as it faces major questions about why it took so long to get this situation under control. Natasha Bertrand is at the Pentagon with more on the reaction there. Good to see you, Natasha. Certainly a lot of questions about why this young, low-ranking person had this sort of access to this classified, highly classified material. How is this changing the way the Pentagon is operating right now?
Yeah, Lynda. So this was someone who had recently entered the military. He was part of the Air National Guard. He was a cyber systems transport journeyman, which is essentially like an IT person for the intelligence wing of the Air National Guard there in Massachusetts. And what we are learning is that he did, in fact, have a top secret clearance. And he also had access to sensitive compartmented information, which involves some of the most highly classified information and intelligence programs in the U.S. government. So he was lawfully able to look at the kinds of documents that he is alleged to have leaked here. But we are learning that the Defense Department is now taking a closer look at how it disseminates this kind of highly classified information, documents that, as we have seen from some of the leak ones that emerged online, really are some of what the most senior levels of the Pentagon are briefed on every day. So why is someone as junior and in such a low rank as someone like this man who is alleged to have leaked this stuff on Discord, which is that social media platform, why is he able to see this? That is the big question now. And the Pentagon is conducting an internal review, and they have, over the last several days, already started to limit the distribution of these kinds of documents. We are told that people across the U.S. government who used to receive these documents for months and even years have stopped receiving them in recent days. So they've already taken steps to whittle down that distribution list, but there are still a lot of questions about what this young airman was actually doing, because we are told that in his day-to-day activities in his work, he did not need to engage with the content of these documents. He was mostly responsible for making sure that the systems operated properly and that everyone could continue to have access in the way that they needed to do their jobs. But in terms of actually accessing these documents himself and engaging with the content of them, printing them out, and then taking them home, of course, there are major questions about why he was allowed to do all of that and how he was allowed to do it without anyone apparently noticing for months. According to the affidavit, he started posting highly sensitive information on this social media platform as early as December of last year. So a lot of questions about how the Pentagon is going to rein this in, how the interagency, the State Department, the White House, the Pentagon are going to work together to figure this out. But clearly the Defense Department now grappling with one of the most significant leaks it has experienced in over a decade, Lynda.
Wow. Yeah, it's a huge story. Natasha, Bertrand, staying across it from the Pentagon for us. Thanks so much.